You're listening to From Stillness, an audiobook for a mind in need of quiet. What if the reason you don't feel extraordinary is because you were taught the wrong definition of what extraordinary even means? From the moment we begin to dream, we're told that an extraordinary life is built on rare achievements, big goals, constant progress, public success. We chase milestones that shimmer in the distance, job titles, accolades, transformations, all while feeling quietly disconnected from the present. We're taught to believe that extraordinary is out there, somewhere ahead of us, waiting to be earned. But what if that idea is the very thing pulling us away from the life we already have? Because here's the truth no one tells you. A life doesn't become extraordinary because of how rare or impressive it looks from the outside. It becomes extraordinary the moment you start experiencing ordinary moments differently. A conversation where you're fully present. A walk without your phone. A morning without rushing. A decision aligned with your future self, not your fears. These aren't grand gestures, they're subtle shifts in perception. But they change everything. The pursuit of rare outcomes often creates a quiet kind of emptiness, the kind you feel after achieving something you thought would complete you, but didn't. That emptiness isn't failure. It's a signpost, a call to redefine. Maybe the extraordinary life was never about doing more. Maybe it was about seeing more in what's already here. Not rare moments, but rare awareness. Not constant optimization, but conscious presence. And once you start looking through that lens, you might realize you've been standing in an extraordinary life all along. You just hadn't been taught how to see it. Imagine sitting across from your 80-year-old self. Not the fantasy version, not the one with perfect wisdom and poetic hindsight, but the real version of you. Wrinkled, weathered, honest. Someone who's lived through your exact life, with all its triumphs, hesitations, and unfinished moments. Now ask them about the decision you're avoiding today. The one tangled in fear, uncertainty, or discomfort. What would they say? This is the heart of the regret minimization framework, a way of making choices that sidesteps your present fears by consulting the future version of you who already knows what matters most. We often make decisions from the lens of what's easiest now. What avoids awkwardness? What keeps the peace? What delays discomfort? But when you zoom out and project forward to the end of your life, a different clarity emerges. Suddenly, you're not asking, what feels safe today? You're asking, what will I be proud of when I look back? Will you regret speaking your truth or staying silent? Will you regret leaping into something uncertain or holding back because of fear? The power of this framework lies in its ability to access wisdom you haven't yet lived, by borrowing the perspective of the person you're becoming. Because most regrets aren't about what we tried and failed. They're about what we never tried at all. So next time you're caught between safety and stretch, comfort and courage, pause. Ask the one person who always knows the truth, your future self. They may not give you guarantees, but they'll give you something better, perspective that cuts through the noise of now. Ikigai is a Japanese word that doesn't translate cleanly, but you'll recognize the feeling when you hear it. It describes the quiet purpose that makes life worth living. Not the loud ambition that chases recognition, but the steady, nourishing kind of fulfillment that flows when your life begins to align. Ikigai lives at the intersection of four things: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. It's not about quitting your job tomorrow or finding the one perfect path. It's about noticing where those four elements are already trying to meet in your life and gently removing what stands in their way. Maybe you already do something you love, but don't feel it matters. Or maybe you're good at something, but it drains your soul. Ikigai isn't a destination. It's a map, one that helps you diagnose what's missing and adjust accordingly. It's the difference between waking up with dread and waking up with direction. Most people search for passion, hoping to stumble into purpose. But passion fades without structure, and purpose feels hollow without joy. Ikigai holds both, anchored in contribution, guided by curiosity. Think back to a time when you lost track of time doing something meaningful. That wasn't random. That was a glimpse of Ikigai, of living from the core of what's uniquely yours to give. And the beautiful part? You don't have to chase it in some distant future. You can build it, moment by moment, inside the life you already have. Ikigai doesn't demand you start over. It invites you to start paying attention to what feels light, aligned, and quietly right. We often aim to be resilient, to bounce back, to endure, to hold our ground when life pushes hard. But what if that's not enough? What if the goal isn't just to survive the storm, but to grow stronger because of it? That's the idea behind anti-fragility. Where resilience resists damage, anti-fragility transforms through it. It's not about becoming untouchable, it's about letting pressure refine you. Think about how your muscles grow. They don't strengthen in comfort. They grow through resistance, through stress, through intentional breakdown followed by rest and repair. Your mindset works the same way. The discomfort you avoid might be the very thing that's trying to build you. Most people avoid volatility. They crave stability, predictability, safety. But those who become anti-fragile learn to embrace discomfort with intention. They don't just tolerate challenge, they use it. They seek feedback others avoid. They stretch into conversations others run from. They walk towards tension not to suffer but to expand. The key is not reckless exposure to chaos, it's strategic stress. Like controlled fire that strengthens a forest by clearing the undergrowth. Your most profound growth likely didn't come from easy seasons. It came after loss, after failure, after being cracked open by something that forced you to rethink who you are. Anti-fragility doesn't promise comfort, it promises capacity. And that capacity, to bend without breaking, to rise reshaped, is what makes you quietly powerful. So next time life shakes you, ask, is this trying to break me or build me? The answer depends on how you meet it. In a world built for distraction, your ability to focus deeply has become an act of quiet rebellion. Deep work is not just about productivity. It's about reclaiming your attention from the noise. It's about remembering what it feels like to be completely immersed in one thing, undivided, uninterrupted, unscattered. We've normalized shallow focus, constant notifications, microtasks, jumping from tab to tab, message to message, without ever really landing anywhere. But shallow work only keeps you busy. Deep work makes you better. It creates things that matter. It connects you to meaning, not just motion. Think back to the last time you lost track of time doing something mentally demanding but purposeful. You weren't just productive, you were present. You weren't ticking boxes, you were building something that carried your attention, your energy, your care. That's not just a better way to work, it's a better way to live. Because deep work isn't just a skill, it's a practice of presence. It teaches you patience, it strengthens your focus, it reminds you that some of the most fulfilling moments come not from quick wins, but from sustained engagement with something difficult, real, and worthwhile. The deeper your focus, the deeper your sense of self. The quieter your surroundings, the clearer your thoughts. And the more you practice it, the more space you create for insight to emerge, not from force, but from stillness. In a noisy world, depth is rare, and that rarity is exactly what makes it powerful. Not everything in your life is equally important, but most people live as if it is. They treat all tasks like they carry the same weight, all relationships like they deserve the same energy, all inputs like they matter equally, but they don't. This is the power of the 80-20 principle, also known as the Pareto rule. Roughly 80% of your outcomes come from just 20% of your actions. 80% of your fulfillment stems from 20% of your experiences. 80% of your growth happens in 20% of your relationships. So the question isn't, how can I do more? It's, what's the 20% that truly matters? And what am I doing that feels urgent but produces very little in return? It's not about becoming ruthless. It's about becoming honest. Because the truth is, you already know which conversations nourish you, which work lights you up, which habits actually move you forward. But those things often get drowned out in the noise of low-leverage activity, the things that keep you busy but not better. The extraordinary life isn't found by adding more to your plate. It's found by clearing space for what holds real weight. Start noticing the few things that create outsized impact. Double down on them. Let go of the rest without guilt. Because meaning doesn't come from maximizing effort. It comes from aligning energy with what gives life back. And when you finally stop giving everything your attention, you'll start giving the right things your presence. Most people think in straight lines. They ask, what happens if I do this? And they stop there. But the wiser question is, what happens after what happens next? This is second-order thinking, the ability to see past the immediate effect and anticipate the ripple. It's the skill of asking not just what's obvious, but what's inevitable, if you're paying close enough attention. First-order thinking sees the short-term win. A raise, a fast reply, a comfortable compromise. Second-order thinking asks, at what cost? Will this job expand your life or shrink your soul? Will this habit energize you long-term or slowly exhaust you? Will staying silent preserve peace or erode trust? In a complex world, short-term rewards often carry hidden consequences. And most regrets don't come from ignorance but from failing to think far enough ahead. Our brains weren't designed for this. They evolved to prioritize the immediate: food, fear, comfort, validation. But the modern world rewards those who can pause that impulse and project forward. Second-order thinking isn't about being cold or calculating. It's about being aware. It's understanding that every action plants a seed, and some seeds take time to grow or to damage. So before you make your next decision, ask, not just, what feels good now? But, what will this shape over time? Because wisdom lives not in reacting, but in remembering that every yes echoes far beyond today. Knowing what matters isn't enough. You can understand every mental model. You can memorize every wise quote. You can nod in agreement with everything we've shared so far and still fall back into old patterns when life gets loud. Because change doesn't stick through willpower alone. It sticks through systems. Your brain isn't built to make conscious, high-quality decisions every moment of every day. It's built to follow cues, respond to environment, and conserve energy. So the question becomes, can you design your life to make the right thing easier to do and the wrong thing harder? That's the power of implementation systems. You create triggers, simple reminders that activate the right mindset. You build rituals, repeatable actions that make wisdom automatic. You adjust your environment so the space around you supports the person you want to become. Want to use the regret framework? Place a photo of your 80-year-old self near your workspace. Want to practice deep work? Schedule 90-minute focus blocks and silence your phone in another room. Want to live your Ikigai? Start journaling weekly. What did I love doing this week? What drained me? The goal is to make doing the right thing feel natural, not because you forced it, but because your life began to flow in that direction. That's what real change looks like. Not a breakthrough moment, but a quiet redesign of the path you walk every day. And when your systems reflect your values, discipline becomes less about effort and more about alignment. If change feels hard, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're moving against layers of resistance, not just around you, but within you. Most people try to make meaningful shifts through sheer willpower. But willpower is like a matchstick, useful, but short-lived. To create lasting transformation, you need to understand the three main types of resistance and how to work with them. First, environmental resistance. Your habits are shaped by your surroundings more than you realize. The people around you, the apps on your phone, the noise in your space. If your environment pulls you back into the familiar, change becomes a swim upstream. That's why redesigning your space and social inputs isn't indulgent, it's essential. Second, mental resistance. Your brain prefers the known, even if the known isn't serving you. Every time you challenge an old pattern, you trigger discomfort. It shows up as procrastination, rationalization, or self-doubt. This doesn't mean something's wrong, it means something's working. Your brain is being rewired, and it's uncomfortable by design. Third, emotional resistance. Change requires honesty. And honesty often reveals what you've been avoiding. That gap between the life you have and the one you want. It hurts to see clearly, but that pain isn't punishment. It's guidance. It says, this matters. You don't overcome resistance by fighting it. You outgrow it by designing better systems, by giving yourself permission to feel the discomfort without being ruled by it, and by staying in motion, even when it's imperfect. Because on the other side of resistance is momentum. We often think that transformation comes from one big breakthrough, a single insight, a single moment, a single turning point that changes everything. But real change rarely works like that. It's quieter, it's layered, it builds slowly, through the consistent integration of many small, powerful shifts. Each mental model you've encountered, from regret minimization to Ikigai, from deep work to anti-fragility, holds value on its own. But when combined, they don't just add value, they multiply it. The regret framework sharpens your decisions. Ikigai gives those decisions direction. Deep work brings focus to what matters. The 80-20 principle ensures you don't waste energy on what doesn't. Second-order thinking expands your perspective. And systems of implementation turn all of that into habit. Individually, they help. Together, they rewire how you see your life. You start noticing patterns others miss. You act from intention rather than impulse. You feel less scattered, more grounded. And over time, something subtle but extraordinary begins to emerge. You're not just learning these ideas, you're living them. That's the compound effect. Not from doing more, but from doing the right things, consistently. Not from chasing outcomes, but from refining how you think, choose, and show up. This is the difference between occasionally feeling inspired and permanently upgrading your operating system. And the beauty of it all? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep showing up, with a little more clarity, a little more awareness, and a little more alignment than the day before. The extraordinary life isn't far away. It's what happens when your daily thoughts begin working with you, instead of against you. Quietly, sustainably, from within.